Okay, hello. Let's see. Something's not right. My music isn't playing. Let's go. Okay. Usual, just turn it off and turn it back on again. Perfect. I think we're all familiar with that, aren't we? Okay, so, hello. Let's have a think here. So today, I am going to carry on with my little job tracker. I have been working on some additional stuff. Let's get the code and stuff up. Let's see, there we go. So here's the job tracker we had been working on. I had been trying to get editable fields working. It does not seem to work. I'm not really sure why. I wonder if there's a bug. This isn't what I actually wanted to do today, so it's fine. Probably needs rebuild, probably just needs to reopen. Yeah, it doesn't matter anyway. I'm going to put that to one side for this, because today we're going to talk about error handling. If anyone is having a look at this stream right now, if you wouldn't mind giving me a little hello in the chat, that would be great, and then can not worry about the chat for a bit. I always worry because I set things up ahead of time and then worry that they're not working. Not to worry. Reset that. Doesn't matter. Branches. Go back to main. And we'll create a new branch. And we'll call this one better. Could probably stop that running for a minute. Let's see. Can't stop it while it's running. While I've got the new branch thing up. Okay. So today we're going to be playing with this error. And anyhow, we'll start with this error. So this error basically allows us to mark up our error type in a way that makes it a bit more sort of generic and easy to use. I promise I'm trying to say less after watching my stream last time. I was like, those poor people having to listen to that. We'll see how we get on. I'm also terrified of just leaving dead air as well. Anyway, that's going to be my new filler word, I think. So, what's cool is, unlike error in the Rust library, this error can be derived. In addition to that, we can have custom from implementation. So if I bring up my code, in the main area that we're using errors at the moment is the storage area. I know, I hear it too. Where did I put my error type? Somewhere not very sensible, it looks like. Not this. None of this. Maybe it is this. Doesn't seem likely. Nope, this is, I'm in UI. Why is it searching in UI? There we go, storage error. So, the storage error, we don't have a custom derive for it. We have to manually implement error for it, which I am not seeing. Does that mean I didn't do it? It is possible I didn't do it. You don't have to do it, but you really ought to, so that's a clear mistake. Either way, hi Andrini, thank you very much. I'm excited too. Also means my chat's working, so I'm much relieved from that. So we will need to bring in this error. URTH. And then we can mark up our error type. Now our error type is currently in store mod.rs. I don't know that I want it there. I think maybe we probably want a new error type over here. So we'll start by creating a new one. That's probably the right way to go. And we will we'll use an enum. Enums are fairly standard to use for errors because it's one thing or another. Oh, I did find out why during my last stream I mentioned that errors regularly don't implement partial EQ, which means you can't implement partial EQ, or you can't derive partial EQ for your own error types, which was slightly frustrating me. However, it actually does make sense because it can be ambiguous as to whether two errors are the same. Someone pointed out in a comment on this, does a UTF-8 encoding error at character 16, is that equal to a UTF-8 encoding error at character 32? There's obviously two different errors. They're not identical, but they're the same kind of error. So should they be partially equal or not? And a lot of people just opt to not make that differentiation. So I think the best way to work our way around that is to build up our error type a little bit as we go, so that we can add some functionality to it to reason about what has actually gone wrong within the error. Enum. So this is going to just be, we'll just call it, should we call it storage error? We already have storage error. Maybe we'll just go with error for now. We would like to derive debug, definitely, has to. We'll use this error, and then we can derive that as well, which is great. Going back to the instructions, those are the only two things we appear to need. So if we read through the documentation a little bit, the display import is generated for your error if you provide this attribute here, this error attribute on each variant of the enum. And what's quite cool is you can pass things in to, say, use them inside of the display. So here we have the data for key 0. This is because redaction is a tuple variant. Is that what it's called? Can't remember. Do feel free to correct me in stream if I'm talking nonsense. I do like learning. Anyway, we can see that 0 is the 0th element of this redaction variant. Similar, we've got expected and found over here being named. So that's very cool. The colon question mark here also means that if this type implements debug, we will get the debug output of that type, which means that you can do this for like other people's errors because they will all implement debug as well. So if we go back to not you here, do we want to break this up further? I don't think so. I just think we want to do better with the errors themselves. Is changing this going to be the best thing to do? This is all storage, so they're all storage errors. I can't break it down further, really. We don't have surreal anymore, and we don't have libsql anymore, so we can probably take these out. Tokyo, we do have. Serde, we have. Okay, let's do... I don't need to do that there. I can do it elsewhere. Arenum. Let's move it. Let's move it into here. We won't do this. We will... I think this should work. Store error.rs refactor. Uses enum store, which will be inaccessible after move. So what we can do is where we're importing this, kind of makes sense. So pubmod, pubuse, error star. So we'll have a top level thing called storage error. Can I move it now? Okay, we'll go to refactor anyway. We can fix this as it breaks and it'll be fine. I want to make sure there's nothing else in here. That's all okay. So yeah, it's brought that in okay. That's fine, I think. So now we have a few issues here. We don't want partial EQ anymore. We will work that out. We just want these things to be applied to it. So I think we can get rid of these. I think Tokyo I/O error we can probably bring in. Let's see if we can remember how these work. Fine usage. Or hopefully we won't actually have to do it. So from third adjacent error, that's perfect. So what we could do instead is make this third adjacent error, and what's the documentation? It was like from, perfect. And this will create a custom impl of from third A error to this. Conflicting implementations. Yep, that's actually fine. We just delete this one. And then Tokyo I/O error as well. Find usages. Let's turn my music down a little bit. I think I'm a bit quiet today. Let me know how volume and stuff is. I have things to change, various things. Don't know what I'm saying. Tokyo error is Tokyo I/O error. Perfect. So another easy one for us to do. Oh. I think after I complained about the AI last time, it's decided that it's going to make things better. So this is unhappy because doesn't implement storage, doesn't implement display. That's okay. We can deal with that. Do they mention that here? Oh, it's because of these. This should give us the display, I think. We just talked about that, didn't we? Yeah, it's gone red because I think it wants us to do all of them now. We could, once we've done the basic implementation, we could probably make these a lot better as well by giving more detail as to what already exists and what wasn't found. Could not map to object. I have a suspicion this is to do with libsql, which may no longer be used. Find usage, no usage, get a U. Deserialization error, and then we can put the 0 in here. Don't know if we want to say it's a Tokyo I/O error. We use it when oops, find usage. There's going to be a question mark somewhere. That we, so Tokyo was it's going to be to do with the files, I think. So I'm going to put file IO error and then just dump out the information again. None of this is ideal error handling, I don't think. The reason being that we are giving up a lot of information about what's happening in the error itself. So while that remains within this crate, it's fine. I have plans to surface the error information once we get further into this. So I'll talk about that in a bit, actually. I think it's kind of interesting. My partner and I ran into some issues with some software recently that was not storing logs, which was very frustrating. So I want to make sure that we are storing logs for when things go wrong. People can see what went wrong and hopefully help them diagnose it themselves. But we will come to that. No rush on it. So this should give us our new storage error type. I suspect the test will now all fail. Yes, because we can't do this in these tests. So test get by name. This should tell us that there was no match when trying to get by name on a name that wasn't complete. I think we've got get by name and find by name. So the fact that this wasn't the full name, it starts after the first character. Sorry, it's only the first character. That means that we should get a not found error. but we can't use assert EQ because they're not partial EQ anymore. So what we could do is create some information. We could give some types on the, or give some functionality to the error type to check whether it is what we expected it to be. So is not found can just be, ooh, look at that. That is lovely. So the matches macro actually creates, I didn't used to use this very much. My way of doing this would have been something along the lines of this. However, the matches macro basically does that, so I don't need to do that. It will check whether self is of the variant not found and then just return that. So that makes our code really simple. So if I go back to this, now instead of using assert EQ, I can just do assert dot you can do unwrap error dot is not found. Is that the best way, I wonder? Let's have a look at that for a minute. So unwrap error, you shouldn't use unwrap, but in tests it's probably okay. I still would probably go with expect error. I think that is okay. It just gives a tiny bit more information, even within tests. Unwrap error would correctly fail the test, but we just want a little bit more information for anyone who's coming along and reading this. Don't forget that the guy reading it in a month going, what on earth was this idiot who wrote this code thinking, is still going to be you commenting on your own code. So it's always worth trying to help yourself out in the future. This just means we will have to do some more sort of like expects and stuff to get the error out. I don't know why it's decided len is going to be a part of that. We can get rid of the OK now. So that, oops, that should be okay. So I think a lot of this is just going to be me walking through the bugs and making sure that they work. Going through. I don't know what I'm saying. So this is should have been created. We won't need this anymore. We won't need any of this. The only problem is, do we reuse company? No. So that should be all right. Yeah, I think this is all fine. And we should. So this is going to be expect error. Should be error is fine. And we can't test it against itself, so we have to do is not found. Was that? No, it already exists. So we haven't written that one yet. So let's go back. Handy. Let's get rid of that. So this is going to be fun for everyone, I think, as I work my way through all of this. What's everyone been up to lately, I guess? Is anyone working on anything related to Rust or anything like that? Let's see. Oops. So that's interesting. We are reusing company a few times here, despite passing it over to the assert EQ macro. And I think that probably means that assert EQ is going to be treating this as a reference rather than consuming it, or doing something with it where it's not taking ownership. So it's something interesting to watch out for. Be created. There we go. Is anyone working on anything not Rust related? I know a lot of people who watch this don't actually program in Rust. No. Okay, we've still got an error somewhere. It does not match definition, missing tokens. Oh, yeah. Now that's not unfortunately going to be the only place. We're going to have a lot of places that we have to do the same thing in. Probably should have anticipated this and done it earlier. There is another way we could do this, which is we could do something like, actually, shouldn't that be thiserror? What's coming back from this? Get by name, dot await, dot. Yeah, I don't know why that was being weird. Maybe because of the extra comma. I think that was the error, right? What did we just change? We are expecting, should exist, not that. Get rid of you, whoops. Should find all items. Now, find by name is probably, I think I've probably not very well designed this storage mechanism, to be honest, because you are never going to be finding flags by name. So it's probably a pointless feature and a pointless test. I think in the future, not this stream, probably not on stream at all, actually. I think it'll be just too dull. It'll be more of this very like minor changes. But I think I would like to change the way I've considered this. So we have this sort of concept of a store that does these. We expect this to be the sort of minimum interface for a store. But like I said, we are almost never going to actually search by name for flags, roles, interview descriptions, anything like that, or job descriptions or interview notes. So I think that it would be better if we have these generic types where we've got, where are the impulse? Not here. Isama, hi. Have you heard of Google Beam yet? 3D video streamer. They just now announced it. I have not heard of it. Google Beam. Let's go have a look, shall we? Google. Is this at I.O.? I noticed a lot of people are over at I.O. at the moment. Google found a way to make virtual meetings suck less. Oh no, I hope no one thinks about the stream that way. Glasses free 3D. Interesting. I wonder if they're just using a camera to... I will have a look at that. I think Google I.O. is probably going to have a ton of really interesting stuff. I'm really interested on what they're doing on the AR front and VR front. Last I checked in on it, it sounded like they were going to work together with Samsung. Historically, I've been a big fan of Samsung, and Samsung have at least tried to do AR and VR in the past. But I have great concerns with the fact that Samsung don't support their products well at all. They, I think, probably make some of the best hardware on the market, like phones. My partner brought me an amazing 360 camera that they made, but then they stopped supporting the software, and now it's basically a brick, and it's just very, very disappointing, which makes me concerned that Google and Samsung are partnering up, but I guess maybe this is just the way things are going. Anyway, I will have to have a look at that. Thank you for mentioning it, Osama. And let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name as well. I'm very bad at names. I like to joke that I just think English is a terrible language for writing down sounds. So this is already backwards, so let's fix that. I did go through and try to make sure all of these were going the same direction, but did not do that. So we would like to expect an error. Why is that's not going to be it, should error. That's odd. I don't know why it wasn't auto-completing correctly. And it's sad again. Why is it sad? Because we left it as equal, the same as last time. So oops. So this is how we should have done it in the first place. And I feel like I could probably find a replace on some of this stuff, but I'm also thinking I want to be careful as I go through, try and get them as sensibly as possible. So this one is going to be expect, should be created. Yeah, actually I wanted to, sorry, someone's saying, yeah, actually I wanted to jump in and create a quick Android app with that technology, but I think that ain't happening soon. It's using something called 6-camera array to capture subject from angles. Oh, so that's ancient tech then, I think. I think I was watching a video on YouTube recently about someone who had been sent actually, I think it was 6 lenses, but one of them was for something that wasn't actually taking the picture, and they would just take the picture onto normal film, which it was apparently very expensive, didn't sell at all, and would have been a pain in the bum to actually do because I think photos are so sensitive to things like light. Oops. That you wouldn't really be able to use it very well. What did I do wrong there? Storable. I think I might change the names to argument must be created to literal string get by ID. Hey, Dimitri. It's really good to see you again. Yeah, how are you doing? You don't have to tell us anything specific to why I might be asking you that, but I hope things are going really well. Okay, nearly there. Also, I should give Dimitri a special shout out as he is actually one of my sponsors. I think I have... Oh yes, I should be drinking water. My first stream went horribly wrong because I didn't. So I'm going to do a quick little thank you to my Patreons while I drink some water. Rider, that's really interesting. So Rider's if I remember rightly, it's the C# IntelliJ IDE. So Dimitri's just saying he's getting into Rider. I know if people watch these back, if I don't read out what's on the on the thing, people won't necessarily see it. Yeah, I've used Rider a little bit when I was trying to get into Godot. I found it easier to just use GD script rather than trying to use Rider with C#. I think I'm just bad at C#. That might be the reason. It's just a little bit too Java-like for me as well on my little brain. Also, I did see... Sorry, this is a slight aside. I did see No Boilerplate, who is one of my favorite YouTubers that does Rust content, was recently talking about basically putting Vim bindings on everything, which I think is quite funny. And another friend of the channel, 891, who was on the last stream, is really trying very hard to get me into Helix, which does have similar bindings to Vim, but does things in reverse, if I remember rightly. So rather than it being like delete 2 words, it would be words to delete or something like that. I haven't gotten my head around it or really tried at all. I definitely need to learn Vim bindings properly, just sit down. I think we've discussed this on stream before as well. I just really need to sit down and get good at the Vim bindings. So we're nearly there. That should be this one, and I think there'll be 1 more group, 2 more groups. Oh dear. This is going to take a while. Starting to get used. I think the AI is starting to get used to my... Why is the AI... That's interesting. It feels like it's not popping up the actual... I don't know what they call it, the actual smart working out whether things work or not. I'm also just noticed something else that's going to really bug me, and it's going to be really boring to fix on stream, but some of these tests don't have line breaks between them. This one's all, it seems to all be all right. Don't know why cargo format wouldn't catch that. Let's see. Okay, it's all fine. It's too many lines. Oh no, it's not. It's the break on the git blame. And looks like we missed this one. Should be created. Okay. And another one I missed. Or have I gone... Nope, these are just ones I've missed. That's excellent. Expect an error. Should already exist. This already exists. Drop this. Get rid of the EQ. Oh my word, what have I... Okay, this time we can do 2 at once, so that's nice. Although I think the second one is technically should be updated. We'll fix that in a second. Oh, that would have been a good one to fix at the same time. Let's just do, let's see if we can find them. No, no more, okay. Okay. Drop that. So this one's a not found. Try and remember that. Oh, there we go. Thank you for getting that one. And these are just going to be expects. And we are on create, so we can do should be created. Then we can drop that and that. That fixes that one. Getting there very slowly. That feels like I started changing it and it didn't finish. It's not found. Rid of that, and that. Still got errors here. So EQ. Oh yeah, so this was the storable one I couldn't work out. So that should be is okay on the create. Then get by ID. It's because of the asref I've left in here. There we go. So mod. Oh yeah, just below. So that's where we're up to, I guess. Yeah, you see, I was thinking, okay, well, I can probably make this do multiple ones at the same time because they're going to be repeated, but even the next one along is formatted differently, does slightly different things, so we will just work through it as we were. Do not get this. Should be created. It's so close to useful. I'm going to go on my little AI rant again. It's so close to useful, but far enough away that it's as much of a hindrance as it is a help, I think. I know people will certainly disagree with me, and that's fine. Maybe it's just another thing that I just need to spend more time learning. Expect error should, what did we decide it was? Should not be able to store a role with the same ID. Yeah, I think it should not be created, actually fine. We decided it was already exists. Need to pay more attention when I'm deleting the code. Okay, these ones are very similar. Just delete that, and now we can expect, and should be, I wonder, is this very lazy? Is this very lazy? Duh. There we go. I may have my complaints about the English language, but and no storage error. So this is a not found error, Daniel. Try and remember that. Not found. Oh, wrong. I also suspect that this sort of jumping around and stuff that I'm doing, again, would be a lot easier with Vim bindings. These are upside down. Get rid of the OKs. Oh, can do that again with the, oops, whoops. So Dimitri, what are you doing with Rider? I guess is going to be the big question for me anyway. Okay, let's try running this test again. Nearly there. Get rid of you. That's fine. There might be a few like that where we're not getting it from the inner module. We're not exposing error. We're exposing what's inside of error. Although I'm exposing everything that's inside of error, what I'm really doing, I guess, is just flattening the imports, which, again, I'm not sure why. Let's have a look. When I save, I wouldn't mind it fixing my imports, which I think is this one. No. Huh. about cargo format? Let's see. Configure actions on save. Okay, don't know. The reason that I'm wondering this is because we don't need to bring in these at like individually and then have those in the same bit. We should just be able to get away with stores, storage error here. Delete these two. And now it should be happy. Weird. Don't know why it wouldn't flatten it for us. Similar for prelude on Dioxys here. I don't know if that's really the done thing, but... Oops, not cool. Oh dear. Oh well, I'll optimize main ports another time. Don't really need to do it now. So keeping on going. That's fine. Oh, did we already do this? Should run it again. It'll give us new error messages. Oh, okay. So that's this error done. That's nice. So feat. Is it a feat? A fix? It's not really any. It's more of a chore. To build a more generic to build a more generic error type. Commit push. So coming on to the actual suggestion, which was to use anyhow. Assuming that's going to work. I'm also having a weird issue where you might notice once this is pushed, I bet cargo.lock will reappear in this list. It seemed to format it using one formatter, and push it, and then immediately format it with another formatter, which is very frustrating. I'll come back to that. We would like... anyhow. So what's quite cool about anyhow is it simplifies how you deal with errors in the first place. The anyhow error is a generic type over basically any error, so you don't have to think very hard about having to pass specific error types down. I wonder whether we necessarily need this now. I mean, it does point out that you can use it with things like this error, which is kind of the point. It gives you some additional functionality. I don't know if we're going to use that yet. I'm going to implement it for the sake of it. And everyone can judge me. It does let us do really silly debugging things, like just kick out of a function without really creating a proper error message, which is kind of nice. Let's bring it in. Yeah, push. Yeah, it didn't do the cargo lock thing. That's good. We might want to use anyhow in other workspaces. So that might be where it becomes more useful. Hi, Vincent. I don't know that you've missed much other than me basically manually changing a whole load of tests where they were overly specific and relied on my error type having partial EQ, which at the beginning of the stream I just discussed is not actually a reasonable expectation that I had. So I just changed the way that they were being tested to not require partial EQ, which I'll give a quick show again just so that people can see. This is our this error, which is basically the same type, except I've gone away from having the string versions of these, which allowed me to check whether they were the same. Not that I was really using that. And then I've implemented whether or not it's a not found or already exists error, which were variants that didn't really have any information on them. And then updated all of my tests to rely on those member methods things instead. We're going to move on to... So with anyhow, we need to replace everything that returns a result with the new results type. which is going to be a lot of places. So let's open it in the find window and see what damage we're dealing with. Oh, that's not too bad. Application. Oh, this is application context error. Oh, why have I done this? So application context. This relates to, am I still in? That's not very useful, IntelliJ. Let's go over here. So application context. I don't think this should be here. Why are we using it? Set role. Application context error. This shouldn't be here. I'm going to ignore this for now and fix it later. Application context is the context for the application. It's not to do with storage. It's to do with allowing us to, inside of the application, decide what state the application as a whole is in. So specifically here, when we get role, we're looking to see what, if I restart the application, actually, let's do that. It's easier to see. So if I click on here, so this changing here is changing the company that is currently selected. If I select here, this changes what role is currently selected. So this error really only exists for one purpose, which is to stop you from selecting a role when no company is selected, if I remember rightly. So you're setting the role to this role, and we are getting the company context. Yeah, it's literally... Hang on, what? Oh yeah, company context is its own thing. It's a slightly more detailed. So this gives us the UUID of the company and the currently selected role. This is probably a terrible way of doing this as well. I will have a think about how to rebuild this as well at some point. Let's create an issue though. So we would like to rethink what application context. And definitely move it out of storage. Workspace project. What's the workspace? The whole thing. I'll just call it create for now. And I'm going to, oops, what have I done? I would like to rethink the storage types, the store types, and break them down into more detailed traits. I didn't finish talking about that. I have noticed on stream I tend to start a thread, distract myself, and then fail to finish that thread. Let's quickly write this. Breaking down storage traits into more granular. That is done. We did that. And this is what we're currently working on. What have I got? Values is for the... Yeah, well, we can look at that later. Values is for... So if you are looking for a job at the moment, and I hope that you're not, it's really good to make sure you keep a note of company values and bring them up inside of your interview. So I wanted to make inside of the job tracker a place for you to write down the company values and refer back to them. Anyway, so let's carry on. We'll just change the error types that are storage error, such as this. And to do that, all we need to do is use anyhow result. Thank you, Vincent. I've put no design efforts into the UI at the moment. One thing, there's a few things that I am really keen on changing. I've got the home and blog thing up here is literally from the starting application that you get when you so for people not seeing the chat, Vincent says that's a clean UI, very nice. And I'm just saying that it's nothing to do with me. This was basically how it came. I haven't really changed anything. It's all fairly default HTML and stuff at the moment. I do want to keep this this on the left, and then most of the stuff that you'll actually care about on the right. I think this is set up with Flexbox at the moment. I have been playing with Table a little bit lately for the CSS fans out there. I've been playing with Table lately. I do not like it. I ran into issues. I think there's some inconsistency with how different browsers display it. But if you've ever been on the Theo's Quest website, you previously might have noticed that at the very bottom, these icons were skew if, and it just was down to the fractional ratio thing, I think. So you can say like, this is 1 and this is 1, and that means they should share the same amount. Or if this is 1 and this is 2, in terms of like the column width, then this column would be twice as large as this column. Stuff like that. It doesn't work on some browsers. So I think it doesn't work on Firefox. So I just changed it to percentage. It seems fine now. I'm not a big fan. So I will probably stick to Flexbox where I can. Incredible that Flexbox is easier to understand than tables. It just shouldn't be the case. So, yes, the layout is not something that I've built. I should probably look at Tailwind, which is what everyone is obsessed with at the moment. I don't really describe myself as a front-end engineer. I do describe myself as full stack, which might be a bit of a stretch. But I should definitely look at Tailwind. Anyway. Let's continue. So we've brought in results now. So these results just need this taken out. And it should be fine from there. So if I do... Nope. Yeah, I thought there'd be a few of them. And what do we get in terms of errors? Because I did see some happen there. Oh, async trait. Fantastic. That's interesting. Expected result T, but found... that should be right, actually. Okay, yeah. Incompatible types. Found parameter T, question mark, not convertible to result T anyhow. Oh, is this actually going to end up making our code more complicated? Because we already return result error from these other ones. Oh, but we... Oh, my goodness. If I change this one, then that problem goes away. Yeah, let's stick with it. Use anyhow. Result. Cool. And then we'll just get rid of these. I mean, technically, I actually need to change it on the... store type. We'll see how this goes anyway. Use anyhow result and get rid of these. And that feels cleaner. Don't know whether it is. And what do we get here? So expected anyhow error, but got that. So I think That's probably enough. So the issue there is that it's expecting a generic type of anyhow error, but I was giving it a specific type that wasn't that, but I can convert into it by using into, which is nice. Just means I need to do it on all of these, unfortunately, but should be fine. Cool. And you've got complaints. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's going to be an issue because I'm not going to be able to get back from my anyhow error to my this error in order to test that it is the right type of error. Let's see what the documentation says. Because we're not really, in real code, we're not really going to use that logic. So I don't mind making it just a touch more complicated, although it does mean I'm going to have to go through all of the errors again. Users. But how do I get inside? That's not it. Is it going to be this downcast thing? Yes, so yeah, this makes sense. Is it worth doing? So what it's essentially in order to get to what we want here. So at this point here, we would like to be using a storage error, but we're not getting a storage error. We're getting an anyhow error because we have simplified what we have. So what we could do is downcast, which will need a turbofish on it, and another expect. But we're going to have to do that for everything. It's not too bad though, is it? However, I'm questioning the value of this. Okay, alarm. Live videos are great for asking questions, getting feedback, but they're long and hard to navigate. Short focus tutorials on specific topics would be super helpful. Thanks for teaching us live too. Yeah, I've got my Idiomatic Rust in Simple Steps series on the go. I am still working on that. I'm almost done with the next video. I'm cutting it a bit fine, I know. And that series is coming to an end where I'll probably be moving on to talking about specifically things like, you know, how to implement anyhow and this error in a more focused way, as you said, okay, Alam. So yeah, I think I will probably be doing more of that sort of content in the future, yeah. I think I'm not going to do it, despite... I'm quite comfortable with the storage error being what comes out of the storage crate. I don't think there's any need to move to anyhow because I'm not dealing with very complicated types. Storage error or like this would be useful if I did not want to do the... Where's it gone? Error, here we go. If I didn't want to do this bit, then anyhow would be better because I can take that out and I can still get this bit. I can focus on the bit that I care about and not care about the stuff that's sort of other people's errors. That is tempting though. No, you're not asking too much. Yes, I want to juggle sort of both sort of the tailored content, the short, snappier stuff with some more long form stuff, and also just sort of like have that conversation with people. I really like pair programming, and this is sort of my cheaty way of getting you guys to pair program with me on a personal project. So I'm really happy that you guys are here, and yeah, I'm definitely going to be carrying on with both types of content. I could delete these. I never check them. I shouldn't care about them. That's the point of anyhow. I think I'm going to do that. And the benefit is, if going back to what we had earlier before I made these changes, we also had some leftover errors that I had to handle coming from Surreal and libsequel, which I then took out in a 4,000 lines of deletion. If I take those out, we no longer need the from. This makes this simpler. I'm doing it. I'm committing. And I will just, all I need to do to make everything work again is basically just copy that bit and bring it in everywhere that is now red. Which isn't too bad, actually. It looks like a lot less places than I was expecting. Hi, JP. Yes, it is Rust. Yeah. Could not convert the type. That's fine because we are going to get rid of this. Oops. That's exactly what that old code was for, and we're not going to do that anymore. So if we now use anyhow result, we can then ignore that, and those errors go away. So this does work out better, I think. I don't know what everyone else thinks. Again, the downcasting is literally only for checking that we have the right error at this point inside of our tests. That we're checking, for a specific event. Thank you for the confirmation. I feel good about that. Thank you, OK Alarm. We're checking for a specific type of error. We expect in this, if we do this particular thing, you should not find a result, and therefore we need to check that you'd get the is not found error, not some other arbitrary error. But that's the only place that we need to do this. Anywhere else is just overcomplicating things. So I think this is good. And we'll try running the test again. Mismatch types, that's okay. Handle storage error because we no longer... yeah, okay, so now things get interesting because we are now having to move to the UI bit over here. Sorry, over here. So the UI, I haven't gone over this yet, but this is a Rust workspace, a cargo workspace. So some of these are not still figuring out what the difference between this error and anyhow, or the best use cases. I'm fairly new to Rust, by the way. That's okay. Yeah, it's why I try to do this. So I'm probably not doing the best job of explaining, but this error allows us to create our own error type that is really malleable and really easy to create. Let's go back again. I think it's worth digging in because I think that whenever anyone has a question, there's probably multiple people who had the same question just didn't ask. So normally when we create an error, say we were creating this data store error ourselves without using this error. So we can't derive error in Rust. We have to implement error. You can only implement error for types that are debug, which you can derive, but you can't derive... Thank you, Vincent. Vincent feels seen. You can't derive error. You have to import error with nothing in it. It's literally just... Can I edit this? I can... Actually, let's go back to the old code. Let's go to here. I'll have to remember to come back to the workspace stuff in a minute. Source store mods, I think that's where it was. So storage error here. So I think I've just forgot to do it in this case. We would have to... it's very weird. I don't know why this is. Oops, that would be it. There's no required methods. Thank you. Okay, Alarm. I'm more than happy to go over this, so it's fine. I think it's really interesting. So the impl error for any of your types, there are no required methods, but there's also no custom derived for it, which I think is a bit odd. Also, if we wanted to actually implement display, not debug, on the storage error, again, you can't derive display, you have to implement it manually. So the way we'd probably do this is with another one of these. I'm not going to commit any of this, don't worry. Storage error. and then it's something like, I think actually it doesn't come in automatically. So you'd either, actually, sorry, let's do, the way I would do it is something like this. Obviously that would be at the top. Then we can drop the stud at the beginning of all of this, but there's loads of stuff in stud format that's important for this. So then it's FN display, I think. You get like a formatter and a writer. No, a formatter and a string. Can't remember exactly. Let's go look. Display. Yeah, so you get this. You have, you take your reference to self, and then you get a formatter, and then you write into it. The way we would do that then, because we're doing it with an enum, is in order to give a specific example of, to give a specific message for each type. We'd probably have to do a match on self, then do each variant. Something like this on every single one. So this would get really boring. However, by using this error instead, we can actually just put what we want displayed using this attribute macro. So this is an attribute macro. I think technically derive is an attribute macro, though weirdly, this is a derive macro. It's very weird. So this would tell this, the attribute macro, all macros are in fact a form of metaprogramming, which means that they will generate more code for you when the Rust compiler runs. This is another thing where this will not go into Iris because I think it's too advanced, but I have written several custom derived macros and custom attribute macros, which you have to write outside of the thing that you want them for. They have to be their own crate, and then they sort of apply over the abstract syntax tree of the language. So you get a really good inside of the code that you write for the custom derive and custom attributes and stuff like that. You get a really good tree of info, or like a set of information about the code itself and the context of the code, which allows you to form these crazy things. So this basically avoids all of this nonsense that we would have to do over here. Cancel changes. Hopefully that helped. And then anyhow is different. So where this focuses on creating a very malleable error, anyhow focuses on creating a very malleable result. So the error type in the anyhow result is an anyhow error, which can be gotten from any other error type, so long as it implements the error trait, which previously back in here, this did not. So this wouldn't have worked if I hadn't gone and implemented this error before doing anyhow. I would have run into trouble. I think that's quite funny. So where are we? Going back to, oh yes. So going back to this, just quickly before we carry on with why this is red, I'll just quickly explain that this is a cargo workspace, which is slightly different to a cargo package. You basically have multiple packages inside of the same. You're welcome. Thank you for asking the question, Okael. I appreciate that. This basically lists out the packages that are separate and can be used separately. So that, for example, desktop, which is actually the package that we're working on, that builds the desktop application, that uses UI and storage, but it does not use web or mobile. And that's how we can sort of like break down our code into more sort of discrete parts that can be put together. So if I go into desktop here, you can see we have the UI. And Dioxys. Okay, so Dioxys, this one's an interesting one. I'll go over these first. UI and workspace are coming from, UI and storage are coming from the workspace. So timestamp this. I should be using the timestamp feature. Can you move them later? I actually don't know how to use them at all. Add stream marker. Let's see what happens with that. Stream marker added, markers appear in the video editor afterwards. I haven't edited the videos from the previous two. I should probably cut the beginnings off them when I've got the little getting ready bit. Anyway. So Dioxys workspace true. The reason for that is that Dioxys actually is used in everything. So I've brought it in as a workspace dependency, which means that you can reference this specific version from any of the other workspaces. It shouldn't, yeah. There is no version number on here. It's basically saying get Dioxys from here, and this one is saying that it is 0.6.0. Ooh, 0.7.0 alpha is the latest. Oh, hey, Chris. For the derive error bit, error used to have required function that you had to implement that were later deprecated in favor of display, etc. Okay, that makes sense. Chris Piscardi, by the way, is another excellent Rust YouTuber that everyone should watch, especially if you're very into Bevy, or if it's near Christmas and you want to do the Advent of Code. His videos on that are brilliant. I struggle so hard with Advent of Code, but it's always fun watching his videos. Cool. So let's move on. Gosh, I feel like there's a celebrity in the chat now. I'm feeling a bit... Where were we? We were looking at why in desktop, in UI, I beg your pardon, we have this error now that's being caused by anyhow. Because we're not using anyhow in this, but we are collecting errors from inside of storage, and storage is now, we're collecting results from storage, and result is using. Thanks, man. Storage is using anyhow results. So when we get results back from, OK Alarm says not into Bevy at this moment. I do want to get into it, and I will be going back to Chris's channel probably to watch how to do it. I have been into game development. Actually, my master's is in computer games technology, believe it or not. And I am old. When I did my master's, it was about the time of the EA Spouses debacle. Maybe don't Google that because that's going to tell you that I am very old. Anyway, I did not want to go into the games industry and ended up entering into the sort of as a web dev instead. So that's how I ended up there. But I am a bit sad that I never went to games dev. That said, this isn't very fair. They don't earn as much money as people in web dev, which is not, I think, because people like me are like, I would really like to go and do that. People accept lower wages, which is very unfair. And then also you have the huge problems that they're having at the moment with companies not really caring about making games, and then blaming studios when not caring about games ruins the game, which is very sad. So maybe I'm better off where I am, although unemployed is where I am right now. Right. Sorry, ramble over. Handle storage error uses the storage error, but what we actually want to use is the it is tough to be an indie game dev at the moment. Yeah, that is also true. I mean, that's always going to be true. I think anyone who sort of works for themselves and does it as a passion project is always going to be cutting things close to the bone. I was watching, again, I'm going off on a massive tangent. I was watching a really good YouTube video recently on the indie animation industry and how everyone feels like this is going to end big animation studios putting out soulless things. And it's not going to, because there's just no money. And even people who are winning Oscars at the moment is like, if there's one thing I could change, it's that there would be enough money that I could pay everyone properly. Chris says, all the advice I've heard about how to be an indie game dev is basically have a source of income and also do indie game dev separately. Yeah, I think that's probably the way to do it, is to not make it your main thing. There was, who was the guy that did the Defenestration series? Used to work for PC Gamer. His first game was the one about the detective with the pants that allowed him to jump from huge. What was it called? He did 2 games. The first one, he was working at PC Gamer, and it took him 3 years to make the game, and it made him enough money that he could quit and just make games for a living. And he was like, that's great, I'll be able to knock them out 1 a year now. His second game also took him 3 years. But anyway. So I need to bring in anyhow into here. I'm thinking that this is actually kind of why these little digressions are useful as we talk about the overall structure and stuff. So in storage, we have anyhow over here, but what if we are going to use this all over the place? Instead of having it here, we move it into the cargo toml down here. Gunpoint, yes, thank you. That was the game. And then the second one was a spaceship game. And his latest one is about wizards with guns, and it's hilarious. I mean, they're all pretty hilarious, but Tom Francis is I think the name of the guy. Yeah, there's my third or fourth recommendation of the day. Go play Tom Francis's games. They're all brilliant and well worth a laugh. Also, all of them you get to throw people out of windows. That's just a core part of it. So if we come back up here, we now want to bring in anyhow again, but instead of bringing it in from there, we'll bring it in from the workspace. So now anyhow is being brought in at the top level, which means that when we go to UI, actually, let's go back again. I can, nope. And back. And we can then bring this in here as well. And if we now go back to where the error is, we can use anyhow. And this time we're actually using the error type, not the result type, because we're actually handling the error at this point. However, now we have this issue. So we do need to downcast again to storage error with this, but that won't work because we removed partial EQ, right? So found result. Oh, sorry, that should be sum. And then interesting that it works on the match there. Maybe because it's matching on not found and not the whole thing. We'll see what happens. Where else have we now got issues? I think we're... Oh yeah, I've got the same... Okay, so I do plan on fixing the fact that these are all identical, basically. Let's go back to company list. Is it identical? Company already exists. It's not quite the same. Let's copy it anyway. Oops. Copy the whole thing, plop it next to it, change what's not different or what is different. Oops. There we go. So I think it's just these are the error messages. Oh, okay, that's not going to make it very easy, is it? Oops. Oh dear. Control G. Copy. Oh dear. Oh, I tried to make this simpler on myself and I think I might have made it worse. Anyway, drop that. Don't see any other differences. I suppose this would probably tell me. Yeah, look. That's fine. And I think this is going to be the same in a few places. So I plan on making the handle storage error a general handle error method. And what I'd like to do is if I reopen the application, give me 1 second. Sorry, let me just, I'll be right back. There we go, sorry. So, yes, what I was going to say, oh yeah, this isn't actually going to run at the moment. Where I was showing off earlier, there's like a home tab and a blog tab that predates me actually working on it. It's like it's from the initial setup of Dioxys. I think I'm going to add in a logs tab that shows up if there are logs, and then instead of having these sort of handle storage errors here, what I'll do is I'll pass them into a signal like this, so we can have signals that act over the whole application, or context. I think no, we'll use a static signal probably, and then we can update what's in that logs area from there. I also plan on allowing that to write the log files to the disk, so if the application fully crashes, hopefully you'll still have a log of what happened. And then at least we can pretend that we're better than DaVinci Resolve, which has been the bane of my partner's life over the last few days. Why am I seeing an error marker here? Ah, there we go. Expected error. So didn't we change this? I guess. Nope. Yes. We found storage error. Because get for company is still returning a storage error. I guess I did not fix all of these, so open and find window, come back to those. Not going to all be downcast or fine. Downcast or fine. These need fixing. There we go. And that will be, just do a, oh, I can actually, can I do a dot into here? No, didn't think so. Okay. It's only the inner type that is going to have the into. That's going to be a problem if that ends up being, okay, no, it's fine. I think it's the, so this is a downside to these sort of macros sometimes, is that they put the error in an odd place because there's not really a sensible place to shove it. It looks like that's not used anymore, but we do want to use anyhow result. Cool. Probably should have just copied that, shouldn't I? Okay. Roll. Plonk that in. I think I'll just shuffle around. Cool. Roll store. And nearly there. No error this time. So you're upset because handle storage error. Did we change this? We did not. Great. I mean, this is the. Let's see how we go. What's happened there? Is that not how I? Okay, that's not working. Let's just go back to. I guess we'll just do. Anyhow, error. I wonder. Sorry, I'm just doubting myself here as well. On the basis that is this. Should I be bringing this in as error without specifying that it's an anyhow error specifically at this point, just to prevent anyone being confused about the fact that error is something that's in the sort of general Rust prelude type things always available to you. Oh, yeah, it actually do use store error. Okay, bring that back. Oops. Oh, storage error. There we go. Okay, nope, what was it, sum? be honest, we could almost certainly. So again, this is going back to me being a web developer and being really cautious about what errors get shown to an end user. So you would not want sort of detailed database errors being given to a user who could potentially use that information to work out mistakes in your code that could allow them to break into it. However, in this case, everything is running on your machine, so I'm probably just have the wrong hat on for this. But we'll see how it goes. Anyhow, error. See, I think maybe that might be the right way to go, but I feel like I should probably be consistent though. I kind of want to go consistent the other way. Okay. So these are now wrong, so I'll come back to looking at whether these are the right sort of ways to handle the error later on. Oh, it's started again. There we go. So let's see. Another new company. Go on there. Another new role. I'm pretty sure you should not be able to create companies with the same name. But did I change that? I might have changed that. I think it's probably okay. This is bad. This is good. There we go. Okay, I think that is done. Just trying to think if there's anywhere else that I could have made a mistake. Well, apparently yes. No storage error in the scope. Import. Why did that build though? Because we were just using storage. How interesting. Oh, because these are the tests. Yeah, that makes sense. So the tests are not included. This CFG, I'm going to be talking about it a little bit in my next video as a offshoot. It's another one of my ridiculous digressions where I just go off on one, but tangentially related. Conditional compilation in Rust is excellent. This is why your test code does not appear in your release code, and allows you to put your test right next to what you're actually testing. But it also means that we had those like actual legitimate errors inside of our test code that was not picked up when we ran the code. Luckily, we have CI for that. So let's just run through what we know is the various things that we do. Cargo test, cargo clippy, and go and check what else is on the list. CI, so no, cargo check, probably not necessary to be honest. Build should be fine because I'm pretty sure that that happens as part of the DX serve. Sorry, test format, clippy, DX format. I think we're good. Let's try committing up and seeing what happens. Sure. Use anyhow to remove having to handle other people's errors. I guess that's what we're doing. Commit push. Let it do its checks, push them up, and then go over here, better error handling, compare and pull request. Use this error to create a more malleable error type. And let's make these bullets. Use anyhow to avoid simplify the to handle a wider array of error types without having to be specific. Naming stuff is hard. So, looks like the last one passed and this one's about to. I'm pretty happy with that. I am not sure how to make it so that we can hit the... I'm pretty sure there's a way of making it so that you can click a button here that says like merge it once the test's complete. Should be fine, I'm sure. These don't actually work at the moment. I don't think they're doing the thing they're supposed to. So these will be building the release versions for Windows and Mac, but I'm about 100% sure they don't actually work. And I'll have to look into those at some point, but we'll leave it going for now. But that means we did that job. So going back over to here, actually, what we can do is we can add to the message, closes 23. So 23 is the issue number. Let's edit this. Closes 23. Update. And then when this actually does merge, it will automatically move that issue into done. So I kind of don't want to do this one because I kind of have to admit I don't know what I'm doing with it. What I might do, it is more interesting though, and it is necessary. Okay, let's look at it. So this is what I started working on today earlier and just got really stuck with. Editable inputs, checkouts. So we'll probably have to update this to, we'll have to either merge main in or rebase main to get the new error handling stuff. But I've been trying to make this little sort of editable thing. So I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream as well. But I'm running into some issues. Now, you can see that did not actually work. That was me pressing enter. There is a button here that I'm trying to make work. That doesn't work either. So let's talk about how this component sort of works, this popping in and popping out edit and display thing. I basically made a new UI component called editable. The way that it's supposed, oh, we're in it already. The way it's supposed to work is that you tell it what you want it to display normally. You give it a form that allows you to edit the form that the data that you're currently playing with. And this last bit is garbage that I'm just trying to work out a way of allowing you to submit the form from this component. So we basically start off with using a signal, which is like a use state in React, if you're more familiar with React. The signal initializes as false, and then when we check the signal here is editable. If it is editable, then we'll show the edit form. And we add these two buttons afterwards to say either, well, we've got like our tick, which is currently a button of type submit with the form ID theoretically here. Maybe that's something I can check next actually. And then the cancel button here, it just turns editable back to false. So both of these should set it back to false, but this one should also submit the form. Is it an event bubbling issue? Let's have a look at that. Dioxis. This is another thing that's quite useful about these streams for me. I mean, I'm getting free labor out of you guys, really, just chatting to you about my various thoughts and ideas, using you guys as rubber ducks. Thank you very much for your sacrifice, I think. So there is an event type that goes into closures that are on the whatever properties of the what will eventually be HTML. Actually, we end up quack. Thanks, Vincent. We get these event objects. I would like to jump to the here we go. And in the event object, so cancel bubbles no longer used. We get stop propagation. So okay. let me try and work out. I may end up explaining this wrong because there is a specific order to this, but when you are on a web page and you click something, so say I click this source link over here, the click event, if I remember rightly, starts on the top layer, but I'm not just clicking on the word source. I'm also clicking on everything underneath it. So if we go in, you can see that there's the A, but then that is also in this section. So I am technically also clicking on that. I'm clicking on the summary. I'm clicking on this div all the way up the tree to the top. And so that event or the process of the event being managed by each thing that you have clicked on is called event bubbling. I'm pretty sure it's top to bottom. I have this like nagging feeling at the back of my head that in the early noughties, it like some browsers did bottom to top. I'd almost certainly be sure that like IE probably did bottom to top because that's the sort of thing that IE would do. Anyway, the propagation, you have to specifically stop it. So I don't think that that's probably what's happening here. So this is the prevent this event from continuing to bubble, up the tree to parent elements. Ah, there we go. I did all that guesswork and I could have just read down 2 lines. There we go. So it's not that. It's not the fact that that exists and therefore the form is not submitting, I think. Or there's another thing, which is sometimes, oh, not that. Sometimes you might need to return true. Oh, it doesn't like that. Spawn if async is not implemented because we are not implemented for bool, but it's static, so it should be. Let's not worry. Let's not do that for a second. The other thing I want to check was, so as I mentioned, normally these things sort of bubble up the tree. This is also sort of true for certain elements. They expect to be inside of other elements. So if you have a form, for example, I didn't actually finish explaining this. So the display thing just happens in the else, and then you get the edit button that turns it editable. The form comes from wherever it's sort of this is being used, which I've only put into one place at the moment, which is on roles, which is why that little sort of button only appears on them at the moment. When I put it into the role here, so the roles are a list of roles, and I've got the editable thing here with a display item and an edit item, and then the form ID, which is the ID of the form. The reason being is that the form, or the edit form here, is creating this form, which we're then putting into editable and displaying it here. But this button's not inside it, so it isn't supposed to submit the form because it's not inside. However, the form property with a form, the ID that is on the form should actually work, I'm pretty sure. But let's just quickly go through. Actually, there's a few things we could probably do here. So first of all, let's make sure that we are seeing what we expect to see. I might need to do a rebuild because we have completely changed the... Okay, so I've got my thing here. So weirdly, there is a lot of weird stuff going on in here. So we get the your usual, this looks to me like the Chrome edit window, although maybe it's not. But one thing that surprised me was I tried basically using the WebSys package that allows you to connect to the window of the browser from inside of Rust, or inside of the compiled Rust, which is in WebAssembly, which does not technically have access to JavaScript. Is it worth explaining that? If anyone wants me to explain the difference between WebAssembly and JavaScript and how they interact with the browser, just throw it in chat. Otherwise, I'll try not to go off on too much of a digression. Unfortunately, this is a desktop app and does not actually have WebSys doesn't work for it. So that's not ideal. Anyway, we have the roles thing here. We have the div here. If I hit edit, that changes into the form here. So the form has an ID with role input and then a UUID, and we have this button. Why is that indented? Is that? I don't know why that is. I don't think it means anything. I'm pretty sure this just follows on from the other thing, because there's the end of the form. That's a bit weird. So the form here is the same, right? Role input D12 ends in C9. Yeah. So that should allow this form to be submitted, but it's not working. And then the submit. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, this could be extremely stupid. So if I go back to my role list item, we've got our edit form here. The form itself has the on submit. But when I hit the button, I stop rendering the form. That would be such a silly way for that to break. Let's try. There's an easy way to do this. Okay, so if we're going to editable, if I just take out the on click on this for now, it's literally the same as the one below it. We'll reopen the application. We'll go to another new company. So if I go edit, when I change this, when I hit the OK button, this won't go away. Oh, it did go away. Maybe it didn't rebuild fully. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else it could have been. Okay, so this time it didn't go away, but I have clicked it, so theoretically it's submitted. So if I hit X now, it does not change. Oh. I think I might be dealing with several different issues, which is kind of why I didn't want to show this bit of code off at this time. So we have a problem with re-rendering it. We have a problem with... Yes, let's just check one more time. So if I go in, I hit the check button, and then I hit the X button. Nothing's changed yet. If I go away and come back again. So I think the two issues we have are, first of all, the one that I've just mentioned, which is I think that by not rendering the form immediately after submitting it prevents it from actually doing the submit code. The second issue is that we would need this to update what has changed. Now, let's think about these one at a time. So the first one is we need to wait for the on submit to finish running before clearing it out. Do we though? I could just force it. I could maybe kill two birds with one stone and wait for the... So in role list, this is where our edit code actually is. This is the update role closure that is being passed on to on submit here. So once this code is done, we theoretically can refresh the component. And by that I mean this one specific LI. I don't know, there's like 5 different voices in my head screaming this is not a good way of doing it in React, but I don't know the right way of doing it in Dioxys, so I think I'm just going to go for it. Dioxys cause re-render. Force components re-render. So just misspelling render, is that what's going on there? That's what I think reminded me to take a drink of water. Ooh. So call once the first time the component is rendered. That's not it. Rendering track values. Don't mutate state in the body of a component. Use effects. You can use effects to run code whenever a component is rendered. It's not quite what we want to do. Oh, there's a use drop though. That's quite handy. Okay, let's just read this very carefully. Initialize state. Not what we want to do. There's more going on here than that, though. I'm wondering if there's something in the like re-roll button here that's actually probably what we want to do. Oh, I see. They've got this log thing over here. That's you can use tracked values. Oh, to re-render your component whenever a value changes. There we go. That's probably what we want. We don't need to be very clever about this, right? Re-renders element. So count. It's not impossible. Let me think. Okay, this is going to be messy, and it's just me thinking my way through it. Up here on our role list component, we will use this, use signal. I'll do it after the context. And we're just going to have a version equals use signal 0. This is really, I'm going to make this U64. I don't know why I just like numbers that are positive only. It feels silly to use an I32. I mean, we could use a U32. Not really a big issue. Anyway, there's our version. We then will do inside of here, we should be able to get access to the, sorry, how did I do it here? So I think we might need to, should be all right. Is it all right? Version, what do they do? Plus equals 1, I guess that's fine. This is sad because I made it immutable. Should have seen that coming straight away. And then we can use the version here. So if we use a data value like that, rerun that. No, it's not happy about that. Data version, expected identifier. Caused by process did not access successfully. That does not tell me what's wrong with that. Okay, let's go. So data hyphen in HTML attributes should just let you put whatever you fancy in there. Darksys data attribute is like a really good way of making much more extensible. That's probably not what I wanted. More extensible HTML applications by attaching data to components in the HTML itself without having to do any like crazy JavaScript anything. You can just have a data hyphen value. But I wonder if there's a different way of doing it in Darksys because of the type stuff. I bet it's more prescriptive about how you use data attributes. Are they not called data attributes? It is a data attribute, okay. Try custom attribute. Oh, that's not going to work because it's going to be on the element itself. Oh, unless it's something stupid like... That's how I would do it. So is Dioxys allowing me to create a site with no JS? I really don't fancy learning JS. Almost. So it probably is worth... So Vincent asks, is Dioxys allowing you to create a site with no JS? Yes. I don't think there's any JS at all on Fio's Quest, my personal website, or my CV, all of which are built in Dioxys. The issue is Dioxys doesn't let you do everything. So you may need to use additional tooling like WebSys to get better access to the underlying stuff if you need to. Up to this point, we haven't needed to, although I did try adding WebSys to this to solve this specific problem of getting things to work correctly. Sorry, my brain's still whirring. I'm just wondering as well if I just hide the form, that would actually work, but I probably shouldn't just do that. So yes, you can build it without learning JS, but I kind of think you should learn JS. And the reason is that WebAssembly is not JavaScript, for a start. So I'm going to have to go through that. I have to talk with you guys. WebAssembly is it's another kind of language / runtime that allows you to run stuff in a very portable way. So you can get these WebAssembly files that are compiled. I don't know if they're like fully compiled or if they're sort of mostly or like, more like bytecode from like Java and Go sort of language styles. But it's a different language. It runs in the browser, but it's very, very, very secure. It doesn't actually allow you to interact with the browser in any way, sort of. So obviously you wouldn't be able to make a website without interacting with the browser. And the way that we typically get around that is that we expose the browser's APIs into WebAssembly space, which WebAssembly allows you to do. But browser APIs are all written in JavaScript. So you will be able to interact with them without writing JavaScript, but it's probably worth understanding how the APIs and stuff work, which all of the documentation for which is going to be explaining JavaScript. JavaScript is a guilty pleasure for me. Like it is a dumpster fire of a language, but I love it. I think it's explicitly, or maybe it isn't anymore because it's a little bit mean, but I think it's one of the languages that's explicitly mentioned in why Rust is the way that it is because it didn't want to be like JavaScript or Python in this like one specific way. Oh, hey, Buonjian. Thanks for the suggestion on doing this. I hope you caught the bit on anyhow. So JavaScript has effectively never changed. Everything that used to work in JavaScript still works in JavaScript. You can write archaic, weird, old stuff. Yes, Bonjian points out that TypeScript makes JavaScript more bearable, and that is true. It's still... I guess like how far into each of them you go will vary that. So to try and to finish my thought, because I will definitely lose it otherwise. JavaScript, everything old still works. So there are some really weird things that JavaScript developers just don't do anymore, but you absolutely can still do it, and it will still work in browsers. Most stuff still works in Node.js, although Node.js does have this sort of weird versioning system where I think odd numbers aren't considered odd. Odd stable numbers aren't really stable and may include things that subsequently get deprecated, which is very weird. I think it comes from a misunderstanding of calendar versioning from Ubuntu. Don't worry about it. Python, on the other hand, it took them a decade to move from version 2 to version 3 because you could not use the two of them together. So if you were consuming other people's libraries, you wanted to move to 3, if your libraries weren't built for 3, you couldn't move to 3. So it took them a decade to actually make that move. So both those languages are sort of cited in why Rust has additions, wherein it allows them to move the language forward and change how you write Rust without preventing you from using older Rust code with it, because the way that they connect up at the sort of like half compiled point, I can't remember what the layer is called, it all still talks together. There are still problems with how Rust does versioning things. So again, this will be in my next iris video, but I actually came across a legitimate bug in the Rust standard library that cannot be fixed and cannot be removed, which is brilliant. You're unlikely to ever be impacted by it, but it is a surprising one. I'm going to save that to try and encourage you all to watch the actual video when it comes out on the 1st. So JavaScript and TypeScript are crazy languages, but they are quite fun, and the way you write them is quite fun. And I think you can probably learn them faster than you can learn Rust, particularly if you don't care too much about being too accurate. There are some quirks. So TypeScript, for anyone who doesn't know, is a superset of JavaScript that includes type information. Thank you, Vincent. TypeScript contains it's JavaScript plus more stuff, and allows you to type your data, although even the way that it does typing is inconsistent across the language. So you can have interfaces and types, and they behave differently. It's very quirky. So I'm not really selling on how whether it's worth learning them. It probably is, just to get a better, at least get enough. Oh my goodness, sorry, now I am going on a digression, because honestly, I would like my linters to tell me if any of my engineers have used the any data type, but it's worse than that because you can't actually get away from it. So I will refuse to accept a pull request if it's got an any data type in it. Any matches anything, but people use it in really weird ways. Like they'll have one type, but they want to get it into another type. So they'll cast it as any and then cast it as the other type and think that will somehow transform it. It doesn't. All type information goes away after it is turned into JavaScript, or transpiled to JavaScript. But you can't get away from it, because if you were to do JSON.parse, which will take a JSON string and turn it into a structure for you, JSON.parse returns the any type rather than unknown, which is what it ideally should return. So unknown tells you do not know what data type this is. Then you can use type predicates to transform it into whatever you need. Gosh, I am a little bit tempted to do a video on this at some point. Any equals typecast. It's horrible. If you are doing that because TypeScript is telling you that the types don't match, it's because the types don't match and you shouldn't do it. Anyway, sorry, rant over. Let's work out how to use data attributes in this. And yeah, I think learning more language is good, but I appreciate everyone has a limited amount of time to actually learn different things. TypeScript probably will get you further than Rust will these days, I think. Whether that remains the case in the future, I don't know, but particularly for web pages, if you are going to be building web pages, you should learn TypeScript at the very least, or JavaScript at the very least, I guess. So data, none of this is quite right. I'm not sure how it actually handles. Oh, hang on a minute. Why don't we go Dioxis core? So there is actually, maybe this isn't the bit that I want. I probably want Dioxis itself. Has Dioxis core got a link to Dioxis? That'd be super useful. Because it's actually, I think what I actually want is Dioxis HTML. Oh, that's not it, is it? Dioxis. Let's see. Okay, Dioxis HTML. In here, I think this does most of the HTML stuff, including all of the attributes. So in here, we should maybe be able to find out how we handle data attributes in here. Build a data element isn't actually what we want. This could be interesting. What's this? Attributes need to be under the element they modify. Attributes are followed by a colon. That doesn't actually tell us. Huh. What? Well, that doesn't bode very well. I just have a funny feeling this probably is actually what I want. I just don't think that's how you use it. You see, oh no, these are events now. We don't want events. We want it. That's still not it. Very odd. Don't think we are. I think we've gone off. That's metadata element, global attributes, extension, into attributes. I don't think that's it either. So there seems to be a data attribute. Maybe I just use that. MDN is great if you want to learn anything about making web stuff, because you see, this is what I want to do. It is a global attribute. Hang on a minute. So if we come, yeah, okay. So it is a global attribute. I think it's just not been implemented in a way that makes it as malleable as I would like. And this kind of makes sense because RSX is, let's go back to the code and we'll be able to see. This RSX macro is basically creating a DSL, domain-specific language. However, the LI is still a thing in Rust. Like, Rust understands what an LI is. This is going to be inside of another macro because that is not actually Rust. Yeah, there you go. Build a construct. But still, it is some sort of concept that is understood. So I think we probably just do that. We aren't... Usually you would use data, give it like hyphen version. That would be your version data. I think they don't support that. But this might be enough. So let's just try that and rerun it. Okay, it has loaded. So this should then, on submit, oh, it didn't work. Huh. Interesting. Because we haven't actually changed editable. Oh, interesting. So I need, this won't work. This method that I'm using won't work. And the reason is because I'm passing in roll in at this point. So I'm not updating what role is here. So no matter what I do in terms of re-rendering at this point, that's not going to change anything. So let's just get rid of that. That was a silly idea, Daniel. Role list is used in populated role list. Role list item is used in populated role list. So maybe there's a way we can update in here. We've got our role list here, which is created by this, which takes our roles. So what we could do, and again, this is just me thinking out loud and just typing nonsense on the page, is we could pass a signal in at this point that causes this entire component to reload. I don't think that's how it works, is it? Okay. I think I might need to step away and work this one out off stream, because I basically need to re-render this entire list, because I update role, the individual role in the data store. So that goes into, no, let's do, I don't know if this is really a sensible way of doing this. So I've got my store, and then I'm getting a role out of it. I'm getting all the roles out of it. I'm using those to build a role list. Inside of the role list, there is a way of editing the individual role. Okay, Alarm asks if I'm going to use Tailwind v4. Honestly, I've never used Tailwind in my life. One of my friends keeps trying to push me to use it. I should probably. It feels like it's probably an easy way to make these things, but it also feels very prescribed, and I don't I don't know. We'll see. I might do in the future. You guys can laugh at me struggle my way through that, and I'm sure that'll be some entertainment. Yeah, Chris Piscati says Tailwind is fine, modern Bootstrap lol. I don't think I even like Bootstrap. I think I'd probably try to avoid that as much as possible as well. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. Maybe I'm just bad at my job. There is, to be fair, there are some fair arguments, particularly at Bootstrap, that everything kind of ends up looking the same. Like, you could land on a website and immediately know that it was a Bootstrap website because it kind of looked like every other website. I'll have a think. Maybe I'll play a little bit off stream and then decide whether I'm going to do that or not. I do think I need to move away from. So again, as a traditionally web developer person, particularly in the React sort of area, a framework that I've used very heavily has been styled components. However, I don't think there's anyone from, I won't say the company, but from Team Ramen on at the moment, but they would know that styled components can backfire spectacularly when you don't keep your design system up to date. So it's really handy. Styled components allows you to do CSS and JS. It allows you to put the style onto the component itself, so that it's a property of the component as to what it looks like, which when you're building up an application from multiple components actually makes a lot of sense. It's really nice. It means that everything you need to know is about a given component is right there where the component is. In practice, that can not work, because where Team Ramen was, I think that they had failed to keep the design components based on the design system. So there was it was a very large company, about 160 people working in just the department I was in, at least at its height. And there was like a shared component library, but it wasn't up to date with the design system, which all the designers used. So the second you imported a design, you would have to sorry, Chris says he was very skeptical of styled components for its entire life cycle. You were right to be. It can be really good. It falls apart if you don't maintain it, I guess. We did continue using styled components when we actually greenfielded an application that was designed in a very different way. The whole web application was designed in a very different way. And styled components work really well. Actually, while I'm talking to the camera, let me go big. Is that not the right button? There we go. So styled components is cool, but because of this messiness, I actually ended up for a while, like Theo's Quest, my personal homepage, they both just use CSS. In fact, let's do, there we go. You guys are learning the secret. The secret to good web development is to not pay for a server. I have all my websites just run on GitHub pages because you do not need to pay for a server. They don't do anything dynamic. So anyway, if I go over to assets here, you'll see that I have Why do I have 3? Not entirely sure. I always go with my reset, my Mayo Web reset, for those who've been around on the internet for a really long time. This basically, each browser has very slight ideas about what an H3 or whatever should look like. Okay, Alarm, I won't say exactly what you just said. I definitely have struggled with that. I've definitely struggled with CSS. Oh, my design is atrocious. I'm still on Facecam if I'm trying to show code. You are right. Thank you very much. Sorry, code. So thank you for calling that out. This is the Fierce Quest website. It just sits on GitHub pages. I've got some build jobs that send it into GitHub. The reset is the Mayo Web reset, which just makes all the browsers basically behave the same by zeroing out everything. So if you write any HTML after this, it just looks like text. And then site, I think, not sure why I have a main and a site. Main might be left over from when it was originally set up. Let's just double check that. Home should be where it is. Yeah, I don't think I'm using it, so it's probably just a leftover. It's fine. So that's it, really. Like the entirety of Fierce Quest just has one CSS file, which is not really the best for organization. It's 220 lines long, and this is just for one page. It's not ideal. We've got like this basically changes the layout if it's under 1,000 pixels wide. That's why when you squish it down, it looks very slightly different. It's because of this. CSS is hard. Don't feel bad if you struggle with it. I certainly did for a really long time. I still do sometimes. Let me see. Is there? I wonder if it's still. I think the main draw of Tailwind has been it simplifies responsive designs and fallbacks. I think that's fair. I feel like I've never built anything complicated enough to justify it. As someone said earlier, not feeling confident with design. My designs are terrible. Again, I don't think he's on stream, but one of my friends helped me design Theo, the mascot for the channel, because my version was absolutely atrocious, and I'm not going to share that, although it might be in one of the GitHub repositories possibly. Design is definitely not my thing. Apparently, going by these streams, neither is programming, but we'll pretend that's not the case. Can't remember how we got onto this. Oh, Tailwind. Yeah, okay, guys, I'll have a look. I feel like that's enough of you telling me to use it. I'll have a look. So going back to why this isn't working, we've got our store, which has data in it. When it loads up, it reads a bunch of JSON files from the disk. We use that data to populate a list of roles where each... we've got our populated roles list here. That creates a list of roles. Each list item, maybe that's the best way of putting it. So the role list item then has the edit role functionality in it, which contains a form that then writes to the store. But if I were to do anything below this, anything after this point, any re-rendering any of this doesn't change the original set of roles that we got from the role store, which is here. Yes. Darksys has amazing support for Tailwind. It actually, I think, comes depending. You can ask for it to be included in your project when you start it up. The other thing is I'm not entirely sure on how to install Darksys because again, coming from sort of a JavaScript centric world, I've just installed a package that has it in it normally, but I don't think that's what you do in this case. This is what gets us our store information. So we get the role store, then we get the roles for the company. So this is the top level. So we kind of need to re-trigger this. Is there a way of doing that? Let's have a quick look. Dioxys, retrigger. Maybe just look at use resource. So use resource is really actually for getting things that are not on your page or not a part of your application. So here we've got we're using requests to pull in a random image of a dog, I guess. Got to look at that, right? Oh, okay, that's going to give us some JSON back. There we go. And that makes sense because a lot of the time with chat still trying to convince me to use Tailwind. Okay, guys, I think you've bullied me into it. Maybe we'll do that for the next stream. I'm joking about the bullying. It's fine. So use resources for getting stuff that is not immediately available, which most stuff on the web isn't. This would also be the case if we were using some sort of... thanks for joining us, Chris. Really, really amazing having you here. Thank you so much. I'm probably going to stop in 45 minutes, I think, or earlier if I really run out of stuff to do. Downloading is one kind of like asynchronous thing that we might have to do with the web, but also talking to anything that might take longer than, well, basically instantaneous. We may want to await. Async await is something that I'll be covering in a future-ish episode of Iris. I haven't worked out how to actually do it though. In that Rust doesn't support async out of the box, which makes it really hard to explain to people how async await works without going through... Oh, thanks 891. I've been talking about you all night, you know. 891 is the wonderful person who helped me redesign Theo and is my go-to person for, like, can you just please make this look not awful? And we've been discussing microphones lately. So this also matters for storage, because our storage writes to the disk. The writing to the disk is not immediate, so we need to wait on it, which is what this use resource is specifically for. Now, the issue is I need to basically trigger this to happen again when I do an update to the form. So somehow I'm going to have to pass the signal up into the list item so that the signal can send back down here that this needs to happen again. Resource handles a restart method. It can be used to execute the future again, producing a new value. Producing a new value will actually... this is perfect. So... Oh my goodness, is this going to work? Am I going to end a stream on a high for once? So we've got our future here. Some value due state change. Rather than calling restart manually, you can read a signal inside the future. It will automatically rerun the future when any of these signals you read changes. Oh, okay. So where are they doing that though? Is it breed? I think that's probably what they're doing, right? Non-reactive state. Yeah, I think that's basically what they're doing. They're passing breed in at this point to trigger it to redo. Yeah, 891 asks if there's why there's no native await in Rust. The funny thing is, there's native await, there's native async, but there's no support for actually creating asynchronous code in Rust out of the box. So what you would typically do is use a package like Tokyo or async stud, or there are a number of others that allow you. Most people use Tokyo as the go-to. I'm pretty sure Tokyo is used inside of Dioxys, and I'm using Tokyo inside of this application. And as an example, if I go to my storage again, Rust has had a wait for Rust has had a wait since 2017, 2018. So async is a keyword, await is a keyword. They are a part of Rust. Sorry, I really want to be. I need to be more careful with my words because I don't want to confuse people. what's not a part of... So what happens when you await is that you're kind of saying that I need this thing that I've asked to happen, but it's not going to happen immediately. So I'm kind of going to pause here, and I'm okay with the program going off and doing other things maybe. But in terms of sort of your step-by-step, like, of things that are happening, you have to wait for this to finish before proceeding on. So roll store, like, once you hit this point, roll stores is not going to happen. Use resource, I think, will block. I'm just trying to think if there's any cases where I haven't blocked. So an example might be, say you want to use request to load two HTML or like JSON files from the web. They're not dependent on each other, but they're not going to happen immediately. What you can do is basically load them up, dropping the await. So if and actually, sorry, this lock is Tokyo. I just remembered. Anyway, if I take that, we should be able to see the type of this is something that impulse future. So future is a special trait in Rust that allows you to do the await part on it, but you don't have to. So if we were to leave this code here, this would run, A would now contain the future, but it would keep running afterwards. The await bit basically just says, okay, can you just stop here until you get a result? But say you had two values you're waiting on that aren't dependent on each other, you want to start off the second thing that's going to take a long time before the first thing that takes a long time has finished happening. So now these two things will start happening at the same time. And if I remember correctly, Tokyo join AB. I think that's how it works. Maybe not. I mean, it could be complaining about other things, to be fair. Does not tell us the documentation. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so we'll then get back the result of A. Let's just, double check that was the correct. Yep, that's correct. Okay, so join AB there will give us let result A and result B back. So the reason this is important is that if this was going to take a long time, and we awaited here, we'd have to wait a long time before starting this. But in this case, we can have both A and B getting loaded at the same time, then await basically both results. So that's why that's what async await is basically doing under the hood. It allows you to do these sort of I would like to come back to this at a future point. Now, the reason that Rust doesn't support it natively is that you need some way of running the other code, because Rust typically runs one line after the other, or if you're using threads, then it can have obviously two things going on at once. And that's currently how I think I'm going to solve this problem, is effectively just writing my own thing that will push futures into threads. Hopefully we'll see what happens. It's not that trivial though. So if I go back to storage, that's probably a good place to look. Not you, store JSON. So here, for example, you can see we've got this Tokyo test attribute on my test create file name. That's because in order to have an async test, I need to tell Tokyo that this needs to be run in an async context. Otherwise I can't await it. So I'm reliant on Tokyo, which is an external package crate, in order to do that. Does that make sense? That was a very loose explanation. If it doesn't make sense, it might just be that I don't understand it enough myself. Also, I really like the .await syntax a lot. I was really not keen when it was initially proposed, and Without Boats, who used to be more vocal in the community, as a community member, wrote up an article about why they didn't like it, and their article convinced me that actually it was a good thing, because they were quite favorable to it. They were, I don't like it, but this is why other people like it. And I was like, oh, I like why other people like it, so I think I like it now. I will be doing a dedicated video for async await. Yes, it will be after threads. And then I'm going to have to work out how to do it. So I might tread water with macros and unsafe first. It may require unsafe. I'm not 100% sure. I'm now basically with the series. I'm now, after the next one comes out, I'm at a point where even, with having programmed Rust since 2017, I'm now trying to teach stuff that I basically never use. I don't use threads directly. I don't use async await directly, or at least not in the, I've never had to build a runtime or context for async await. I've never written a macro. I have written proc macros, which are different, and I'm not including in the series because they are hard. And I've never written any, oh no, I have written unsafe code, but only in the context of writing for embedded, like microchips and stuff. Yeah. Don't know. That's not going to show up because there's no light. But if you want to write embedded code, then unsafe, you will require unsafe a reasonable amount. But even then, you're largely going to be reliant on other people's APIs. So I think for most people, you don't need to know this stuff, which makes me feel like maybe I shouldn't be putting it in Iris, but we will. I don't know. Anyway, let's see if we can make this restart. I've got about 30 minutes, I think. So the role list item, that's not what we want. We want the actual populated role list. So this resource can be restarted in a number of ways. So what we could do, we could either use a value in here that's going to update, but we know that we won't need to do that. We could pass the resource itself in. This doesn't feel like a very sensible idea, but I'm going to try this. So we've got role list item. Now, the reason I'm thinking about passing the entire resource in is because of ownership. So there's this really weird thing where passing in a reference to it may not work because of the closure could outlast the thing that it's referencing. It's going to be a type, isn't it? Expects, and this is vec role, I believe. We'll start with this. We'll start with that. We've got our, where's our on submit? So we're not doing that anymore. We're going to do, what did I call it? Resource. I think I just called it resource, didn't I? Restart. Really doesn't like that because I haven't actually put it into the thing here yet. So this, oh. Yeah, that's not going to work. What? Oh, no, we're okay. We're okay. I thought I was inside of the roles resource, so that would have been bad. Let's call it roles resource as well. I would go and change that name. Oops, saved too early. So roles resource. Now, the reason that this is bad code is because by passing in roles resource, I'm giving far too much access to that underlying thing than is necessary. Sorry, I shouldn't be dragging that off here. I'm assuming this is all green. So fingers crossed. No, it didn't work. So let's just change this again. We'll tick it and then we'll quickly, now that's interesting. So the data is changed, but editable's not, interesting. So editable. Editable is not, okay, sorry. Editable is maintaining the state that it's in the editable state. That's a really weird way of phrasing that, Daniel. So the data is actually changing. Display is changing. Oh, it's far too clever for its own good. Okay, so display is changing, but it knows that editable hasn't. What could we do here? I want to force it to re-render. I'm thinking... Moved after use. That's true. Oh, it's being used earlier on. That's why. What? Data not found in the current scope. I will tell you, if you are questioning learning web development, at the moment, React is a lot easier to learn than Darksys is. It is a bit more HTML friendly. That said, though, there are other sort of web-based frameworks that are really good. Leptos looks a lot like Darksys, but works very slightly differently. For example, there's a whole slew of them out there. The only thing is, I've shown this off before. Apologize if I'm going over things that I've already shown. So there are a lot of different Rust frameworks, and I think there's a couple of good temptations as to why we'd use them. One of the big ones, obviously, is Rust is really fast, and using Rust, you're not compiling to JavaScript, you're compiling to WebAssembly, which is also really fast. Now, there's a number of frameworks you can use. For this talk, I just went through and built a bunch of like counters. Looks like this. It looks a lot like React does. It looks like a lot more like HTML does. This is how we use that. We've got Perseus, which is it's a framework over another framework. So it is to this other framework that I haven't got in here. It is like what next is to React. So it's a sort of a heavier duty framework around another framework. Again, this one actually looks a bit more like Darksys with this sort of weird syntax here. And then I tested Darksys as well. Now, funnily enough, this presentation I actually made in Perseus. And then I went through testing different frameworks, and then I fell in with love with Darksys because its examples were so much simpler versus what I was doing. And also, this is no longer even this has gotten simpler since then, so it's not that big of a deal. But here was what I found really interesting is that Darksys was a lot faster than React for most stuff, but not everything. React was the fastest at clearing rows on a table. But the thing is that it was much closer than I expected, and React isn't even a very fast JavaScript front-end framework. So I kind of recommend learning JavaScript if you just want to build websites. That said, so yeah, my recommendation at the end of this talk was like, you probably don't actually want to learn Rust specifically for making web pages. However, there are other reasons to do it. So if you are doing like a lot of complex non-rendering work in the front end, so I know that like there are insurance companies that run really complicated calculations, and they've moved those into running in WebAssembly in people's browsers, and that's really fast. Also, like Rust is just much safer than using like TypeScript and stuff. So there's that as well. Anyway, sorry, another ramble. Don't know where I'm going with any of this. I don't know. Oh, because editable is a specific thing here. What I could do is give it a key instead. That should work. So when this changes, it should re-render. But key is supposed to be unique, so that could be an issue. You can tell I'm getting a bit... How did that correct to anything? Okay, that's still not... It's not moving out of the scope of the editableness. So alternative option... I'm trying to self-contain as much as possible in here. And maybe there's just something wrong with the structure that I've used here, because it's kind of codependent in it. Well, I'm trying to avoid it being codependent, I guess. Codependent? Probably not the right word still. So the editable thing here is done by this signal. So I need to create a change in order to re-render the component in the signal itself. I can hide it, arguably. And again, these are the sorts of things that would just be a little bit easier in a more mature, like front-end framework. If I could, in React, I could force the edit form here to be a form type, then I would know that this is a form, so I could actually hook into the after it's submitted thing, which goes back to what I was saying earlier about browsers use JavaScript APIs. If you want to interact with a browser on a more granular level, then JavaScript is really the way to go. However, going back to the problem I mentioned much earlier on, there are ways of doing that with Dioxys. So you can break out of Dioxys and go directly into sort of JavaScripty land, but this technically isn't a browser that it's running. Even though it looks an awful lot like a browser with a reload and inspect element and this sort of HTML thing, I don't know what this is, but WebSys does not exist in here, which is going to cause me more problems in the future as I try to work out how to do things like keyboard commands. So I would like to be able to jump to particular bits of the application using the keyboard, not clicking on it, and that's going to be a bit more challenging. So, still got 20 minutes. Let's see. We would like to force this to re-render. I feel like there's probably just something very simple inside of here. So we know now that we are getting those values updated. So that's great. That re-render thing worked great. One thing I will just make a note of that I'm not happy about with that is to do, you can tell I've been doing a terrible job all over here. To do, don't, thanks. Off to one side. Don't pass the entire resource. So I really just want to pass in a way of restarting the resource, not pass in the whole resource to be restarted, if that makes sense. I want to limit the amount of control that you're passing down the tree. So going back over to the editable component, we need to work out a way of getting us back to the original state without unrendering the form before it's finished submitting. So our original problem was we had the onClick is editable set false on here, but by doing that, that would immediately unrender the form and stop it from doing the on submit. I could make it invisible instead, but I don't want to do that again, kind of because of that, like controlling how we interact with the application. I don't want there to be a bunch of invisible forms that could potentially cause problems with when things are allowed to be submitted. For example, another thing that I'm considering is that I don't really want you to be able to open up multiple things to edit at the same time, because it's probably fine, but it makes me a bit anxious. Like, for example, I wouldn't want you editing the company while you also have an open edit window for the roles, I guess. Although, again, it should be fine because it's all linked by UUIDs and those don't change. So maybe I'm being overly cautious and got my web brain on. So what we could do... I mean, oh, actually, there is another thing, which is I just wanted to check whether... This is a vnode, I think. No, I was just curious as whether I could get... Oh, actually, .at. Yeah, there's another thing that I might be missing from Dioxys, but I haven't seen yet, which is like you can pass a reference into an item rather than using IDs. You obviously don't want to accidentally duplicate an ID. That won't happen with this because the ID contains a UUID, which will be unique, but ideally we would pass in a reference which is guaranteed to be unique and also works in a slightly different way. But again, it's not something that Darksys supports, so we work with what we've got. So it wouldn't be that simple. Again, you guys are just like the best rubber ducks to work with. Let's do... Oops. Oops. I've got a form ID. And then we are still using ID here. We can just drop this altogether because it's just the thing that it is. So, oh, no, made a mistake. Oh, because I need a clone. I need a clone on the first one. Oh, no, I didn't use it at all, but formid.clone. And this is another slightly frustrating thing with Darksys is I know there are other ways to do this, but I end up doing a lot of cloning of strings because if you get into string slices, you obviously need to deal with references, and Darksys gets real funny about that. At least with this sort of component style. So where I've got this component up here, it basically does the sort of changes these into properties for me it sort of maps it into a properties object that is what is actually being passed in here, for example. That's sort of how that does the mapping. But with the component thing, it gets really weird about you using references. Anyway, for now, another new company. Whoop, question mark, tick, didn't work. Did still change though. So my thinking there was that we are changing the form ID that's being passed in here, but it still did not change the signal. So, sorry, we're still on resource here. I want use signal. One of the simplest hooks, you provide a closure that determines the initial value. Use signal gives you the current value and a way to write the value. When the value updates, use signal makes the component re-render. Oh. Could we... So when the value updates... No, we're passing in the closure. What if we just change the thing that the closure is returning? So how would that work? I don't think it would. So I'm thinking, could we do something that allows us to change the value that's returned by the closure in the use signal that causes everything to re-render? I think the answer is no. Every time the comment state changes, it re-renders. But I feel like I'm just going around in circles a little bit. So I think we probably are going to have another like unsuccessful stream, but I guess it's okay. If I were to do... This would be really stupid. Form ID equals use signal form ID. So the only real difference that I'm using here, I don't need that to be mutable, is that when this is called, it will return the form ID that is here. So when it changes, because we changed the name, it might cause it to re-render. Not convinced that reloaded. Let's just do that. Or rebuilt even. There we go. So still no. Still changes. So it's literally just this editable thing. So actually, let's look at this. If I inspect this element, I'll shove this on the side. We have our form here. The form has an ID of role input, hi. Oh, okay, we shouldn't use the name here. The reason being that the name could be anything. So I could make it something that should not be put in there. But if I set this to something else, the question sort of becomes, does that update? Which it didn't. It didn't update. But we know the list has changed. Oh, the list didn't change. What? Why am I getting errors? LS application not found. This might be related to the thing being open. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. Tick. So is it hi or Bob? It is now Bob. So the form re-rendered, but it didn't trigger the... it didn't trigger the... Sorry, give me a second to work this out. It didn't trigger it to go back to the other branch. It's basically... It's not... Oh... Can I use a signal in another signal? I feel like that's probably an anti-pattern. Oh, that's not going to work either. No, that... I don't think... No, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Okay, I'm stuck. Again. I need is editable to become false after the form is submitted. Could pass the signal in, but that's exactly what I'm trying to avoid. What I really need is just some way to force it to re-render. It feels very simple, but it very obviously isn't. Let's just go back to where this is being used. Here. And this is the issue, that form ID changes, but the signal doesn't. And I need to make it so that the signal, it is a signal so that you can go into and out of it. So... I am out of ideas. I tell you what, though, one thing that I should be very happy about is that we did actually succeed on the plan for the stream, and then we've just moved on to something else that I'm stuck on. So I should be very happy Would use resource help? So we could restart use resource. So are you thinking that we could pass the use resource in at the higher level? That could give us... How would we do that? Let's drop this. That was silly. So we could... The resource would restart. But I think we need a way of actually triggering the restart, right? So we can... I think... I could be wrong, but I think what is happening is that it's being super clever about when or when not to re-render. So one ever-present problem within sort of front-end frameworks is that modifying the DOM, the document object model, the thing that is the structure, is really expensive. And so there are lots of tricks that front-end frameworks use to try and avoid doing it unnecessarily, including things like creating versions of changes elsewhere and then swapping them in, or looking really carefully at like every single component to work out what did and didn't change. In the gone in the wrong place. In the JSON, sorry, in the role populated role list, you'll see when we create the role items, the list items, in here, at the top level, I think, you'll see we've got this key ID. And the reason for that is so that that identifies this list item as being this list item and not some other list item. In a list of anything that's repeating, whether it's list items or something else, what the framework wants to know is if you remove an item halfway down, did anything else change? Because removing that one item is a lot cheaper than re-rendering the entire list. So that's why we sort of do that. That's kind of why I tried doing like the key ID on this as well, key name, but that didn't work, even though I feel like it should. Oops. I think it's to do with the signal. So it knows that the component, the element, did change, but it hasn't changed the signal. Maybe I want a hook. What's the difference between a hook and a signal? Whoops. Oh, it's all gone wrong. Oh, it is a hook. That is what it is. USignal is a hook. Rules of hooks. This is true in React as well. When you use hooks, never put them anywhere where they could be called in a different order. The order in which they are called is important, which I think means that they are probably riddled with side effects. So never do anything like put them in a loop or an if or, oops, what happened there? Help. What? I don't know what happened there. Let's have a look in here. So we've got use signal, use effect. Use memo is definitely not what we want, because that will actually try to do using multiple things. Reruns when changes. Why is there no? Am I going crazy? It lists use effect and then doesn't actually tell you what it does. Effects are reactive closures that run after the components finish rendering. Effects are usually for things like manually updating the DOM after it's rendered with WebSys, so that's not what we want. Use callback, creates a callback that's always up to date. Whenever this hook is called, the inner callback will be replaced with the new callback, but the handle will remain. Whenever this hook is called, but that's going to be the thing that's returned, I'm guessing. Creates a callback that's always up to date. Whenever this hook is called, the inner callback will be replaced with... Not keen on this. I don't think this is quite... Oh yeah, it's just telling us the hook stuff again. Coroutine's not what we want. Effect is, we decided not what we want. Use reactive, take some non-reactive data and a closure and returns a closure that will subscribe to that non-reactive data as if it were reactive. Oh. So does that mean... Oh, hang on. No, I don't think that does mean what I want it to mean. I think this is in... use reactive. Just want a slightly more... medium. I just want a slightly more obvious example of it working. Oh, that would be over simple, right? That would be far too simple and wonderful. Please. Editable. Use reactive. And then this will be form ID. Oops. Form ID. Use signal. I'm going to use it here. This is going to return a function that we can call that does the log. Oh, whoops. It's because it's a closure that it takes in the second one. We actually don't care about that data though. Still sad. No. Oh. No. Expected bool found. Oh. Oh, that would be silly. No. Okay. Okay, so use reactive is returning this closure that gets as our use signal, which we're then calling to get the signal. I don't think this is going to work. It's it's very So form ID, we still have the thing with the name in it. That's not okay, but let's play with it anyway. We could change this to like version, as I mentioned earlier. That would work. But let's just play with this and just try not to do anything stupid with the ID. So rebuild, should open it again. Tick. Okay, no. Okay, I'm going to call it there. I'm still very, very happy. I feel like we did a really good job with this error and anyhow. Those are now integrated. That's going to set me up in a really good way to be able to do a log, like a proper logging, get rid of all those handle error bits elsewhere, and just have a signal that captures the errors as they happen, which we can then put into, if I go to desktop, I think. Yeah, you see we've got this grim thing called blog over here. I can just rename that to logs, put that in there, and only show if there actually are logs to be shown. I think that's probably the best way to go. I only have to change one letter as well. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming along. Thank you for helping out so much with the code and pointing me in the right direction and stuff with things. Yeah, this was fun again. So I will try and keep doing this on a somewhat regular basis. I think Tuesday might be the day, but I might not be able to do next week because of a scheduling conflict. So it might be in 2 weeks' time, but I will see how things go. Join the Discord if you want to ask questions, and I might keep trying to update there what's actually happening with the app that I'm not showing on stream as well. But yeah, thanks everyone. I'm going to end the stream and wish you all a good night, wherever you are in the world. It may not be anywhere close to night for you, but it is for me. So thanks all. See you next time.